best characterized by its complexity, the Gulf of Alaska ecosystem is incredibly productive and feeds a wide range of species. Stretching from the peninsula all the way to the Inside Passage, nutrients are lifted from the depths of the Pacific to churn with minerals from glacial rivers and carbon from our world's largest temperate rainforest. Each year, the resource managers at the North Pacific Fishery Management Council set the catch quotas for crab and groundfish fisheries in the federal waters of Alaska. In 2020, knowledge and information contributed by 92 researchers and local community members was used to describe the status of the Gulf of Alaska ecosystem. Considered to be the gold standard of fishery management, ecosystem-based fishery management combines rigorous stock assessments with a more expansive ecosystem view. This is crucial in providing context to a species' status by connecting the dots of an ever-changing ecosystem. The Ecosystem Status Report informs the North Pacific Fishery Management Council and local communities of any shifting trends or conditions by comparing recent data to the long-term observations. Changes in ocean temperatures can influence just about everything, from the types of zooplankton species we find to the distribution of fish and the rates at which they feed and grow. You see, in warmer temperatures, fish metabolism can increase, causing them to need more food. Coupled with a change in availability of preferred food, this can lead to starvation and population decline. We know this because in 2014 through 2016, unusual seasonal weather combined with the overall warming of the climate created a large expanse of water that was much warmer than average. Spanning the west coast into the Gulf of Alaska, scientists referred to this marine heat wave as the blob, and it drastically affected the ecosystem. And yet again, in 2019, ocean temperatures warmed to heat wave levels, making it even more difficult for species affected by the blob to rebound. In 2020, we saw a continued decline in some seabirds like the common murres, and some colony abandonment of black-legged kittiwakes. Examination of their diets showed that in years prior to the 2014 heat wave, capelin accounted for 90% of what kittiwakes ate, and capelin are cold water forage fish. They were dramatically affected by the blob and have yet to recover. This, in turn, affected the seabirds and groundfish species that eat them, forcing them to find other sources of food. Deeper shelf waters along the Seward Line are still showing elevated temperatures, as the effects of these recent marine heat waves remain evident. Sea surface temperatures returned to near long-term averages for the winter and spring of 2020. The Western Gulf had temperatures increase and fluctuate around the marine heat wave threshold during the summer and fall. The Eastern Gulf had nearer to average temperatures throughout the summer, but hovered just below the marine heat wave threshold in the fall. The average temperatures in the first half of the year provided improved winter and spring conditions for groundfish that spawn on the continental shelf, such as Pacific cod, walleye pollock, and northern rock sole, increasing their chances for a productive year. The cooler temperatures brought conditions closer to what has been considered normal for the past 30 years, resulting in improved feeding conditions. Research vessels collected samples along the Seward Line and Icy Strait. Zooplankton biomass was above the long-term average, showing an increase in large calanoid copepods. This means an increase in nutritious zooplankton that are high in fat, a good indicator for juvenile pollock and other plankton-eating groundfish. At the same time, there was a decrease in the biomass of smaller copepods and about average biomass of euphausids or krill in Icy Strait. Abundance of mature Pacific herring increased in 2019 to their highest levels in the time series for Sitka Sound since 1980, and they were the highest since 1988 for Craig. You can see the increased forage conditions of 2020 contributing to the increased reproductive success of seabirds on Middleton Island, Kodiak, and in Cook Inlet, as well as the humpback whale populations in Glacier Bay and Icy Strait. While research suggests that forage conditions have improved, the commercial salmon catches of 2020 were the lowest in the Gulf of Alaska since 1985, and the lowest in Southeast Alaska since 1976. These low adult returns in Southeast Alaska are reflected in the low early marine survival of juvenile salmon observed in 2017 through 2019. That being said, juvenile pink and chum salmon in Southeast Alaska continue to increase from low abundance levels in 2017, while coho, sockeye, and chinook haven't shared the same progress. While early marine survival of juvenile salmon is a definite factor, the entire story behind the decline of salmon in the Gulf is still a mystery. More research into ecosystem factors could create a better understanding of what happened. The cooler ocean temperatures in 2020 helped reduce the occurrence of harmful algal blooms, but we did still see elevated levels of toxins in clams in areas where they commonly occur, like Southeast Alaska and Kodiak, though Ketchimak Bay did have levels below average this year. In review, residual impacts of recent marine heat waves are still being seen throughout the Gulf of Alaska, reflected in the absence of capelin, some diminished groundfish species such as Pacific cod, and the continuing struggles of seabirds such as common murres. In the beginning of 2020, sea surface temperatures returned to near average and remained generally cooler than 2019. This played a role in improved food availability, with the effects being observed in the populations of seabirds and humpback whales, and will hopefully contribute to a productive spawning season for Pacific cod and other groundfish that spawn in the spring. However, the low commercial salmon catch in the Gulf of Alaska for 2020 has harshly affected local communities and remains an ongoing question. These environmental trends are predicted to continue into the winter and spring of 2021, with average or cooler than average temperatures due to the arrival of La Niña. In assessing the status of 7 groundfish stocks in 2020, scientists also considered the ecosystem information collected this year. Resource managers at the North Pacific Fishery Management Council then used this information to determine if changes were warranted in the 2021 total allowable catch. All this was made possible by the collaboration of scientific researchers, communities of knowledge holders, members of the fishing industry, and Indigenous peoples of Alaska. We look forward to expanding this collaboration and deepening our understanding. We hope you'll join the conversation.